Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages and all points in between, my name is SomeGuyNamedRob, the velvet voice of social media, the pontiff of podcasting, and the Dalai Lama of live streaming, the master of puppets, the pastor of Muppets, as well as your reigning, defending, undefeated and undisputed super heavyweight live streaming podcasting champion of the world. The enigmatic, charismatic, effervescent, and omnipresent ringmaster of this all-singing, all-dancing, all-encompassing, and all-inclusive cavalcade of wit and whimsy, as well as your digital deacon of this virtual church for the internet faithful. And this is the ever-present thread of online entertainment that we call the Some Guy Named Rob 5-Minute Podcast. Deftly and diligently digitally distributed across the depth and dimension of the internet, this seemingly endless extravaganza of entertainment is expertly engineered for the enjoyment of all creatures great and small. It is brought to you by, and recorded for all your oral pleasures, on location in front of absolutely no studio audience whatsoever, at the International Academy for the Subtle Art of Talking to Oneself. Welcome one, welcome all. Okay, so we can all agree that the joke's run its course, and at this point it's either scale it back into a quick intro that gives me time to actually do more than talk about who I am and what this podcast is called, or we can take things to the logical excess and eventually make this a challenge to see if I can fill an entire 5 minutes with the intro before rolling end credits. I have decided, for now, to choose the former, and from now on, expect the intro to be a more subdued Greetings, Internet faithful. I'm Some Guy Named Rob, and this is the 5-Minute Podcast. So we can all move on with our lives. Okay? Okay. I want all of you who are listening right now to picture the following. It's the start of cold and/or flu season in Canada, by which I mean pretty much any season, though autumn in specific for the purposes of this thought experiment will suffice, and following a trip to the doctor who tries, in vain, to reassure you that you only have a cold and/or flu, and not one of the many variants of murder hornet Omicron, you decide to take a quick nap to recharge your batteries, only to wake up hooked up to various medical apparatus in a strange hospital bed, having been in a coma that was only slightly longer than this run-on sentence. It doesn't get any less mind-numbing from here. The rest of your story unfolds in the role of the nameless hero as you try to piece together what happened, what that happening has resulted in, and how you'll get back to whatever passes as normal in these post-high plague times that haven't even happened yet, because it's only 2014, though it is still a full 6 years following the release of M. Night Shyamalan's film The Happening, and holy crap, this run-on sentence thing is happening again, isn't it? Okay. I think I'm better now. So as you may have guessed from the previous train wreck of thought, I read a really good book lately from channel fan and fellow Canadian Jason Garden called You're Not Dead. It is the story of, see previous, and was a shockingly honest recount of what life is like following a major medical incident. Now, you're going to have to excuse me if once again I tend to be a little vague on the details as I was with the Thoughts from My Car podcast, but that's only because this is a book that I really don't want to spoil, other than to say that if you were looking for your stereotypical inspirational story tropes of traipsing through the 5 stages of grief, I am overjoyed to tell you just how disappointed you would be in reading this. This is more confusion than denial, more frustration than anger, more arrangement than bargaining, more malaise than depression, and more reconciliation than acceptance. Now, you might be mistaken in thinking that I'm just trying to flex my vocabulary for the sole purpose of splitting semantic hairs, but synonymous words are not always interchangeable, and the subtle differences are often the most important. And you really only realize how these differences play off of each other when you're reading the text, which is something I highly encourage you to do. At 14 chapters and clocking in at just under about 100 pages, it's not exactly a long text, but it's not something I would call a light read for anyone who actually pays attention to the way the story is written. I highly enjoyed it in spite of how it made me feel about ways that I behaved in the past, or maybe even a bit because of it, and I do consider this to be well worth the price of admission. Links to where you can buy the book in the doobly-doo. This has been episode 3 of the 5-Minute Podcast. You know, the irony of all this is I just finished recording this entire episode with the start of a sinus cold myself at the end of September, right around the start of cold and or flu season here in Canada. It's a small world, isn't it?